Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. My guest today is none other than Rahul Rai. Rahul is an actor, an entertainer, an influencer, more recently, if I'm not mistaken, an e-commerce entrepreneur, as well as an investor.
Yes.
Along his journey, he's managed to create an astounding following of somewhere just under 3 million followers across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So Rahul and I don't know each other. I was just saying this to him before I started recording as well. But I decided, you know what? He's a cool guy. He's made me laugh a lot over the last year. So I wanted to reach out, and very kindly, he just decided, you know what? This sounds cool. He's happy to talk about it and give me some insights into what goes through his mind and how he sees his life. And he's ready to share those insights with all of you listening. Rahul, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very, very pleased to be here.
Thank you so much, man. I've got to say, like right off the bat, you first came across, I think I first stuck with you when I
Yeah.
saw your TikTok video on when you were hired to be the clapper for Sean Paul.
Okay.
Dude,
All
that was one of the funniest things I've seen this year.
right.
Wow.
I'm glad. I think that was inspired by something else I saw on TikTok. So I can't say it was an original idea, but somehow it clicked when I did it, I guess.
It just worked, man. And then I
Yeah.
saw all the duets that you were getting as a result
Hmm.
of people wanting to be the salt shaker and all of that stuff. Man,
Yeah.
one of the funniest things I've seen this year for sure. Um, right, let's just kick off and let's do like a little background so that people who may not have heard of you can get a little idea of who you are as well. So, if you
Sure.
don't mind, right, let's start off by talking a bit about your journey, how you started off, what got you into acting in the first place? Because I believe that you're
Yeah.
a dancer, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
am. I am a dancer. I started dancing when I was like 13. Just like watching Bollywood movies and watching um and just learning by doing and learning by putting in like DVDs and coming home after school and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then I just started practicing kind of obsessively, just after school every day because it was just a nice creative outlet for me. And then my parents, after seeing my dedication to it and some level of skill in it, they were like, you should start. Maybe that translates into acting, and maybe you should start doing plays at school and whatnot. And I was very nervous and very scared to kind of do that, so I never took the plunge in high school to do
Okay.
any drama. But it kind of came to me in a very unique, weird way. I was doing a performance in the city with a dance troupe that I belonged to at the time,
Hmm.
and a director happened to be in the audience, and he asked me to audition for a film that he was making. And then from there, that was when I was 18, so that was like 11 years ago.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. So that's I booked that um role, which was very odd and very new to me. And then after doing that, that's when acting became a serious pursuit for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually, it's kind of cool that you already mentioned it. So, like, your parents actually encouraged you
Yeah,
to.
ironically they did. My parents are very forward thinking. They also have a great appreciation for artists. Like my dad actually painted that
Wow.
uh, of JFK. That's the copy. The original is in the JFK Museum or archives in Massachusetts in Boston. So
Wow.
he has an artistic background. My mom loves dance and appreciates it, and they've always admired the art. So when I had some level of I don't know, proclivity towards it and interest in it, they kind of encouraged me to do it, and they've been encouraging me since day one. So otherwise, I probably wouldn't have I wouldn't have had the guts to do it.
That's really cool, man, because like I would say that you're in like one of the most fortunate positions where you're actually being
Yeah,
encouraged by parents, especially from like a
yeah,
background as well. So most people would
yeah.
be
I
told
mean,
that.
it's definitely rare. So I come from a place of privilege, I would say. Um, so I guess that's why I work my face off so much every day to make content and whatnot, and hopefully educate, entertain people. Just because when you're given a lot, you're given a sense of privilege. I think it if you're smart and self-aware of it, you understand that there's a tremendous amount of responsibility that comes with it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the number of people that are following you, there is
Yeah.
definitely a responsibility that you feel behind that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And I'm learning. It's a learn by doing thing too. This is very new territory for me to have an audience. So, sometimes I make mistakes, sometimes content goes a little, but that's the only way to learn. There's no real manual to learn this kind of stuff. It's just learn by doing, learn by making mistakes, trial by fire kind of stuff.
I mean, did you ever think that you would be an influencer? Was that
No.
ever like in your?
Not like on social media for sure. Maybe like through my work as an actor and getting an audience that way, the
Mhm.
more maybe traditional sense. But not really, not through social media, posting stuff on and weird videos and wearing towels on my heads and and talking about financial literacy and all that kind of stuff. So no, I would never thought I would. So I still see myself as an actor more than an influencer. That's where the basis of my work comes from. Really, is my training as an actor, if you will.
Yeah, I mean that definitely transpires into like the videos that you bring out and the way you create them and stuff. Because
Yeah, hopefully.
it definitely does
Yeah.
from my perspective and what I've seen.
Mhm.
So let's talk about for a second the journey from being an actor and focusing on acting
Mhm.
and how that's been and how that transitioned into you using something like TikTok.
Yeah.
Like what happened? Where was the connection?
Yeah, again, it happened by a happy accident as well. I think the biggest things that have ever happened to me in my life have always been very accidental. They've been mistakes that in hindsight, maybe it's some form of, fate or like, I don't know, like serendipity or whatever. But a friend of mine in the financial literacy space actually was like, you should go on TikTok and post dance content there
Okay,
and stuff like that. And I didn't know what TikTok was. This was like October of 2019.
okay, so literally just a year ago.
Literally, yeah, a year ago. And then I was like, all right, I'll look into it. And then I looked into it, posted, and then I would just start consuming a lot of content. I would just watch, and then start getting ideas and then start posting more and start posting more. And then I think when you start getting some level of attention and feedback that's positive, it can be very encouraging. And so it becomes this positive feedback loop, if you will. And then because of the pandemic, also come March, that's when things started to, I think, accelerate because I was just putting out more content because there was nothing else for me to do.
Yeah.
So that's that. So really, in January, I started doing it more often, and then in March, it really started taking off.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense. I mean, more people are at home, more people are
Yeah,
phones, and it was just the right time, right place, right time.
right place, right time, and yeah, it's one of those things where like if you're just consistently keeping your skin in the game, opportunities will come, and then a lot of things can open up in that way if you're willing to just stick it through. Like, I mean, almost 11 years worth of like nothing, and then now it's some little tip of an iceberg of some level of notoriety. So it's interesting how things change in an instant, but it can take a very long time to get that instant, if you will.
Yeah, it's that whole like overnight success kind of
Yeah.
view where people go, oh, okay, well, he became TikTok famous, but actually,
Yeah.
the reason that you are where you're at with TikTok is because of 11 years of grinding.
Yeah. I would
Like,
say so. I would say it does pay off, but it can happen in a moment, which makes it look like an overnight success. It's a very odd thing to try and explain, but it's like a series of moments that just start accumulating momentum, and then it accelerates, and then it gets to a place where it's like this is kind of in a way going on its own. And I still have to show up and do the work, of course, but yeah, it's interesting how influential people can become from the confines of their own studio apartment or room or whatever. Like, you don't need anything fancy anymore.
yeah,
It's really weird.
it's crazy, right? Like, dude, literally, this thing, your phone. is the
It's a
reason
game changer.
you've blown up, because that's where everyone's attention is. I mean, I listen to people like Gary Vee all the time, and that's what they're talking
Love.
about. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he's been talking about TikTok for like since it came out.
Yeah.
It's like, get on TikTok. If you want to do something, get
Yeah.
on there. And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's shit, just get it out.
Exactly. And even like at my level, I still create bad content. You know, like not everything hits, not everything explodes. But that's why, again, skin in the game consistency wins out over the long haul than
Yeah.
just a moment's worth of whatever you're trending right now.
Definitely. And I guess what you just said there, like you create bad content, that's subjective to your opinion, right?
Sure.
'Cause
Yeah.
you think it might be bad, but someone else could think that's the best one that you've put out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a weird thing also. And it's like, oh, the views don't always translate into, I guess, what is quality in the eyes of your audience.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And there's certain audience members and followers that will always stick with you as long as you're relatively a good person, I suppose. But they will always stick with you and show up, which is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that level of support that
Yeah.
you realize is actually there for you throughout. And
Yeah.
they're,
And that's a weird thing also when it comes from a complete stranger that you've never met. And maybe you never will meet, I don't know, but it's really reassuring and really lovely when it happens.
yeah, it's just like that level of influence that you have over someone's life. You could be changing someone's life
Yeah. Yeah.
in a video that you will never know, that you will never meet, that you
Yeah.
will never even hear about,
No.
but it's done something. And that's, I guess, that's another one of those moments, but not for you, but for that person.
Yeah.
And it's just happened by right place, right time, happened to be scrolling through that video, which is like super interesting, actually.
Yeah, that's why it's important to just make content. If you're a creator, just make your content. Just make your content as consistently and as often as you can, because even if the views aren't there, the likes aren't there, somebody is watching, somebody's being affected. You do have influence. It may not be millions, it may be thousands, may not be thousands, maybe hundreds, and maybe tens. Like, don't underestimate. Everybody starts small, and then things, if you're consistent enough, things can explode very quickly because it just accumulates all that compound interest, if you will.
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
just roller coasts, and then it's just weird, and it's like now you're just in new territory after that. But it's always interesting.
Definitely. I love that you just said that it compounds its interest, because that's my next question for you.
Yeah.
So, actor, entertainment, TikTok, dancing, like that's one huge route that kind of links together.
Yeah.
Where did financial literacy come from? Why
Yeah.
is that so important to you? And like, I mean, it was important enough for you to start your separate TikTok account about that
Yeah.
specifically, which is also doing ridiculously well.
Yeah.
So, like, talk about that for a second.
Yeah. I mean, financial literacy, I think, is another passion of mine. First of all, learning about money, and then now using my experience and documenting my experience with money to hopefully educate other people and be like just passing back information that I think is valuable. But it really started, I think my very first memory is like my sister driving me to Bank of America when I was a kid to open up a CD account, certificate of deposit
Yeah.
account, which is like I guess some form of a high yield savings account. Like you can't touch your money for like 2 years or 3 years, but you can earn like a 5% at that time, maybe a 5% interest or something.
Now it's like 0.05.
Yeah, now it's like very little. But I think that was the first seed. And then the second one was after graduating from college, I had some money saved up that wasn't doing anything in a savings account. And I just like wanted to, I've always admired people who could invest and turn $1 into $2 by obviously through a legal means and smarts and discipline. And so I just started going on the internet and finding stuff and learning on my own. And this was before I was heavy into social media at all, and started really using, this was before I used the internet smartly.
Okay.
and started like really looking at resources on YouTube and stuff like that. So I was just going on the internet, Investopedia, and I fell into ETFs and whatnot, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I just put money in. I didn't really understand per se. I didn't really have any confidence, but just, again, just kept my skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then over the years, just finding resources. And then it was like 2016, 17-ish, I think, that I found Tony Robbins' book, Money Master the Game, which is one of the books that I talk about. Because he was doing some interview that I saw online on YouTube or something with Larry King, and like he was promoting the book and whatnot. So I read that book, and it's a giant book.
Yeah.
And I annotated it. I took notes, and like that's when money started to make a little more sense to me. And like, oh, there's a number. We should all go for that number. You probably don't need millions of dollars, but there's a certain amount. And then what are the certain terms? What's an IRA? What's a traditional? What's a Roth? What's a this? What's a that? And then in 2019, that's when I really just accelerated it completely and just read book after book after book. Every one book led to another, led to another, led to another, led to another. And that 1 year's worth of self-education really got me to a place where, okay, now I know the game of money to a better degree, not an expert, but at least a place where I no longer feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. And I know exactly now how I want to use money and make money work for me. I want to do it through index funds. I want to do it through, I'm very fascinated by crypto, and then real estate. And then, so now that I'm financially literate to some degree, and when I get passionate about something, I want other people to get, it's like when you watch your favorite show, you find a new show on HBO, you find a new show on Netflix, and it's like you want everybody to watch it, but nobody cares about it because nobody shares your passion for it because they just don't get it. They just don't get it. They're losers. They're losers that don't get it. So I was just having conversations with friends of like, dude, you gotta make money work. You gotta learn about index and you gotta invest. What about your Roth? Like, what is your 401ks or Roth 401ks? And people are just like, nah, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I figured I would just centralize all those conversations onto a social media. And then that's when I started getting into social media. So like Instagram. So 2019 is when I started really social media and Instagram and like tweeting and sharing my experience.
If you don't mind me asking, just so you said that you really got into social media around 2019. So before that, would you say that your following wasn't that huge?
I didn't have a following at all. I had a lot of judgment about social media in the beginning because I fell into that ego trip. And like, why do people take selfies? What are they like? What is this? This is stupid. But then I didn't realize like there's so much you can do. It's all, you're creating a brand basically, like if you're really serious about it. And again, it also ties into acting because you lose for so long. When you lose long enough, you start to, your ego gets hit so many times that you're just like, all right, there's this thing called social media. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time we start figuring that out. Maybe it's time, which then kind of ties itself back to financial literacy, because what financial literacy really does, and they're all happening at the same time, these thoughts and whatnot. When you get financially literate, what really starts to happen is your mindset starts to shift from that of an employee to that of an owner.
Yeah.
When you become an owner mentally, you realize that everything is your fault. And you have to take full accountability and responsibility. There's also another great book that I read called Extreme Ownership. That is not a financial literacy book. That is a book about leadership and it's really an amazing.
What was the
I guess
book
personal Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership. Okay. Who that's by?
Jocko Willink and Leif Babin.
Awesome, man.
They are Navy SEALs, ex-Navy SEAls that now do business consulting, but they basically show how their training as Navy SEALs has translated into their own personal lives, professional lives, and whatnot. And that is the main theme of being in the military, is that kind of level of ownership. And so when you become financially literate, that's what starts to happen. You start to realize that you have to take accountability. And now you're an owner.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're the owner, everything falls on you. And so now, if my acting career, for example, doesn't look the way I wanted it to look by the time I was 28, 27, 28, then I got to do something about it. Then I have to figure out a way to maybe rethink, re-strategize, everything. But it's on me to do it. I have all these other people on the team, reps and agent and this and that, but they are not the engine behind the whole machine. I have to be the engine.
Yeah.
So financial literacy, in a way, has been my greatest investment into my acting career. It's been the biggest, it's been the biggest life-changing, probably, investment. I would highly suggest all creatives, all actors, to get financially literate, because you will never see, I mean, anybody should, because you'll never see the world the same way.
Yeah.
Just realize that the opportunities are there. It's your lack of skill that's not allowing you to take advantage of it, which is why there's going to be a lack of money in your life. Then getting financially literate was one thing. So understanding the game of money is one thing, but now you need to get the money.
Yeah.
So that you can actually make the investments in the index funds, in the real estate, in the crypto, whatever you want. So now the game has shifted for me once again. In 2020 now I understand how to make money work for me. Now I have to figure out how to make more money.
Yeah.
So this is where all the merchandise stuff comes from. Not purely money. What I'm saying is that's going to be, you have to respect money in that way. You have to respect money. You don't chase money per se, but you got to respect it so that you can have a positive relationship with it, if you will, and have a good relationship with it, if you will. So now, that's why side hustles are so important. That's why leveraging the internet is so important. That's why creating content is so important, and having that tie back to some form of a business that you're the owner of. Again, this is financial literacy. It all just goes together to me. Acting, financial literacy, side hustles, all of it is the same thing, which is just becoming more and more of an owner, so that I can actually turn what I see up here into tangible reality.
That, I love that. And just to go back on the last bit that you said about your positive relationship with money, or rather your respectful relationship with money, when do you think that really changed for you? Was that after you read like Money Master the Game? Was it after you read, because there's 5 books that you really love talking about. What, do you mind just talking about the 5 books for a sec?
Yeah, so it's money. So I name them in the order that I think people should read them. Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Mm-hmm.
The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by John Bogle. Rich Dad Poor Dad and Cash Flow Quadrants by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Now, even if you're international, I think a lot of the concepts in the books can be very useful, but of course, it's very US centric because of the terms and whatnot. But those 5 books, of all the books that I read in that year, those were the 5 books that had the most practical knowledge and the best mindset kind of stuff to start implementing. And it's after 2019, gaining the knowledge and reading these books, that my understanding of money. And then when I share it on the Layman Investor, it's kind of like how I used to tutor economics in college. So when you're a tutor, you're reiterating things over and over and over to different students. So your fundamentals in that subject become very, very strong.
100% agree. I had this exact conversation like yesterday, because like I teach personal development. I mentor people on like creating vision and understanding their unconscious.
Yeah.
But the more I teach it,
the more you learn.
the more I'm learning.
Exactly.
and it solidifies it.
Yeah. So that's been another big learning source for me, is just sharing it on TikTok or on social media and on YouTube a little bit, just talking, literally saying the same thing every day. But because I'm saying it repeatedly, it's hitting me at deeper and deeper levels. So repeatedly saying, make money work for you, make money work for you, has actually made me understand the actual highest potential of money is that it's a workforce, it's a labor force.
100%.
And now I understand it. Like, they are employees. So every extra dollar that I have that doesn't go towards my expenses, my basic expenses, should be working for me. And the more I can do that, then the closer I can get to early retirement or whatever it is I want to do. Now you have time. Your greatest asset is time. So when you solve the money equation by making it and then making it work for you, you now have time. And with time, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, that is the thing that people are chasing the most, right? That time and ultimately freedom. But
Yeah.
unless they master this first,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
have freedom whenever,
Yeah.
but you might not have any money to enjoy it. So that freedom will be
Exactly.
very short-lived.
It's material freedom, if you will. You
Yeah.
know, maybe it's not spiritual freedom,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not that kind of stuff. But materialism, if you want to live in modern society, that is, and not live in the woods by yourself, you have to respect materialism. You have to respect money. Therefore, money is the lifeblood of your entire material existence on this planet. So if you do not respect or learn about money, then you're probably not going to have much of it.
Dude, I absolutely love that. I would probably
Yeah.
take that as a quote because
Un-
that was
yeah. Unfortunately, and understandably so, you will now learn about money in school or from your parents. It's a generational poverty is what's actually being passed on rather than generational wealth. I don't think, again, there's the whole idea that people need more money in their hands, but they need more education. You cannot it's the seed first before you get the fruit.
100%. I mean, you can
Yeah.
give two people the same $1,000 or £1,000,
Yeah.
but the person who understands what to do with it to make it grow will naturally have way more a year or
Yeah.
2 years or 10 years down the line
Yeah.
compared to the person that had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, 100%, it's just down to education.
Yeah. It's a completely self-taught subject. So it's only going to, financial literacy will only be learned by those that have a self-starting go-getter mentality.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And well, you guys have heard it so far. Those 5 books are definitely the place to start.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I've read a couple of those. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is like
Game
a
changer.
big one
Yeah.
because it really does talk about getting you into the understanding that money can work for you and really recognizing what is your asset and what is your liability.
Yes.
Like that's huge. And that in itself is a big mental shift for a lot of people.
Yep.
So yeah, I love that, man.
Yeah.
Were you gonna add something else just now?
No, I was just gonna add, like, once you start learning all that, you'll realize, again, like I was saying before, learning how to make more money. And
Mm-hmm.
once you learn how to leverage the internet and you start making money without leaving your house, you will realize that there's there's probably no shortage of money in this world, because now there's no shortage of opportunity for you, because you know how to use the internet to make money, whether that's selling your own goods or selling or doing affiliate marketing. And there's a great course that I took, which I call my best investment of 2020, and I talk about it all the time. It's the One Funnel Away Challenge by ClickFunnels.
Yep.
Great course that will teach you like how these 5 books teach you the fundamental skills of money. This one course will teach you the fundamental skills of making money online. So like creating an email list, creating offers, creating a sales funnel, writing a story that is your own story, sharing with your customers, that ties back to why you're selling and creating the product that you're creating. Like these kinds of skills of marketing and selling, financial literacy, these are the important skills that improve your odds of success into the new year that's ahead of us.
Definitely. And the two things you just mentioned are probably the two biggest skills that everyone really should be wanting to learn, which is
Yes.
marketing, so that you
Yeah.
can actually get in front of other people,
Yep.
and then sales
Yep.
to then convert those people into
Yeah.
something that transacts for you and in a
And
fair
you're
way.
giving value to them as
Exactly.
well.
In a fair way.
That's a huge, the one thing that I learned from that course, the One Funnel Away Challenge, is there is no product that's too expensive. The problem becomes is when the value is not worth the price. So if I charge you here, but I'm giving you value down here, that's a problem. But if I charge you here and I'm giving you value up here, then that's okay. Even if the price you're paying is $100,000.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong paying $100,000 for an education if you're going to be able to make that money back and not go into debt, but make that money back plus profit on the back end. So like if you can get if you can get a $200,000 job or $200,000 worth of value eventually, there's nothing wrong with you paying $100,000 for education. People pay a coach $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
For personal mentorship.
Yeah.
There are people out there that are charging $100,000 to work with them for a year, but that person is going to give you $1 million worth of wisdom, knowledge, skills that will then be able to take your business to that level.
True.
In a tangible, real way. Like
Yeah.
you will actually make that money. So again, it's always going to be about value. Even if you're giving away free content,
Yep.
it has to be valuable. That's the only way you'll get away with shamelessly promoting and selling whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. That's the whole like jab, 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 right hook
Yes.
principle, which is
That's
give, give,
yeah,
give, give, and
exactly.
then have no shame in asking because you gave.
Exactly. Yeah.
So like the energy was out there. You
Yeah.
produced something, you
Yeah.
provided value.
And also people will be willing to pay you now.
Exactly.
So that's the same thing in this course, the One Funnel Away Challenge I talk about all the time. It's the same idea of jab, 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 right hook, jab, 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 right hook.
Yeah.
Give people more value, more value, and then you can get the money, and then you will make the money. But it's also strategizing. Like Gary Vee is a very good strategist. He's like, I think he says he's selfish with what he gives in a way. Right, he's giving, but he's also on the back end. He knows how to create the back end money making thing. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to. He can't create $100 million company in digital marketing or wine or whatever. So again, that value and learning that the fundamental skills, learning the back end skills, learning how to build the infrastructure, that's what the course is going to teach you, and that's what these books that I always talk about are going to teach you when it comes to financial literacy.
Amazing, man.
Yeah.
So what has COVID taught you? Because
Yeah.
there was obviously you've taken a lot to learn on yourself, financial literacy, putting out content, like not holding yourself back, and like having gone through the acting journey as well, where you feel like you've been beaten left, right, and center, to then just go, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to do this. Like enough of this.
Yeah.
What did COVID teach you on top of all of that?
COVID taught me that you don't have to leave your house to interact or to influence and have a positive impact on people. You also, what I really learned too is if you are disciplined, it will always outwork your motivation and inspiration to do something. I think inspiration, my understanding of it, inspiration and motivation are feelings, and feelings are very ephemeral. Feelings are very volatile. So what you feel today, you will not feel tomorrow, and what you feel tomorrow, you will not feel today and the day after, and blah blah blah. So if you're completely, if you getting something done is rested on how you feel, then you will not be consistent enough to get it done. And this is why discipline trumps everything, because discipline is not about how you feel. It's about your understanding of what your responsibility is to either yourself or to somebody else or to this thing that you said you wanted to accomplish. You have a responsibility now. And so when you have responsibility, it doesn't matter if you are tired. It doesn't matter if you are sick to some degree, if you are not feeling it. you have to show up to it because it's your responsibility to do so. And
Yeah.
so making content, and whether it's on the acting brand or the layman investor brand, it is a responsibility that I have, yes, to the people, but also to myself and to my own ambitions, if you will. If
Yeah.
I'm going to hoist an Oscar over my head, I have to take full responsibility for that entire thing. So that means it doesn't matter if I'm tired or hungover, for that matter, or somewhat depressed or feeling anxiety or feeling sad about this or heartbroken about that. I have to put in the reps today, even though I'm not feeling it today. And you see that with people who work out. You see that with athletes. You see that with entrepreneurs. They just do it. They get the reps in because they know they need to tick off another day.
Yeah.
Need to lay another brick.
Yeah. And I guess that the third thing that you could add to that, like you've got discipline, you've got taking responsibility. And if there's a way to be held accountable in some way
Yeah.
or form,
Yeah.
then it just provides the perfect structure to make sure that you have no choice other than
Yeah. Yeah.
it's taking the choice out of the equation.
Yeah.
That would be one of probably the biggest secrets.
Yeah.
Which is if you take away the choice and your only option is to produce content or is to dance or is to go and talk to 10 people a day or whatever it might be, or go to the gym,
Yeah.
then by taking away the choice of not being able to do it,
Yeah.
only have one option, and that is to succeed eventually because you're putting in the effort.
Yeah. It's tough because we like choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we like choices, or we like to give somebody else the responsibility to hold us accountable.
Yes.
And that's, I think having accountability partners, I think that's a thing. It's a good thing maybe, but again, now you're relying on somebody else to hold you accountable for something you have decided that you should be responsible. So it can be a crutch in a way if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. It can be. I guess it depends on if someone's using it to help them get started. That could be a good thing, and then they take on the accountability themselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you said, we love choice. And we are slaves to our emotions most of the time until you understand how to master emotion.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-awareness is a big underrated skill.
Yeah.
Self-awareness, self-discipline, self-respect. These are all very underrated skills. Patience. If you're gonna have patience with yourself, it's hard, but these are, if you, they're, to me, I see them as like the pillars, and then upon those pillars you build whatever you want.
Dude, I absolutely
You
love
know?
it. Like, I did not imagine this conversation going
I know.
in
It's
this way.
interesting because people, and it's totally understandable. You can only consume me the way you consume me. Some people consume me through TikTok and social media only. Some people consume me in real life, right? Like I meet like my parents or my siblings and friends. There's going to be a surprise on both ends.
Oh, I think we just cut off. So we
Sorry.
just disconnected. Go for it.
So there's going to be a surprise on both ends. Like if you get to know me through my content, then having a real conversation with me is going to be very weird. Because I'm very soft, in a way, I have a very soft-spoken, calm energy, if you will. But
Yeah.
on TikTok, it's very different. If you consume me through real life conversations, seeing me on TikTok will be like very odd. The point is that I don't think anybody will ever get the totality of me ever.
Yeah.
It's just never going to happen because we're all dynamic creatures that are changing, and then environments play a big, and then our moods, and then our emotions, and our this and that. So, and I also have to do the same thing with other people. Is however you're consuming that person, it's not all of them. It's a part of them, and it's truth. But it's just a part that you're getting a piece of,
Totally
and
agree.
that's an interesting thing for an audience to have to deal with. and we're all audience members to somebody else's content. So, I think that's a responsibility on an audience's part, is I don't know, give them the benefit of the doubt, give them, I don't know this person, maybe hold off on your judgments, but I don't control that as a creator.
Yeah.
But I have to have that as my own. I have to remind myself of that when I start consuming somebody else's content, that this person, I'm consuming them in one aspect, in one shade of light.
Yeah, I love that. It goes back to something that I say quite a lot, which is at any one point in time, there's like 20, 30, maybe 100 different versions of you that exist, but it's in the minds of other people.
Yeah.
Like you could exist in someone's mind who you pissed off because you cut them up in traffic.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you exist in your mum's eyes as like the golden child. Like, do you see what I mean? They both exist at the same time.
Yeah.
So I completely get that. Like you are only ever getting
we live a subjective reality more than an objective reality.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Awesome.
Yeah.
So my next question for you is like, what's your vision? What is next for you? Like this last years has been huge growth for you. Just getting in front of that many people and everything. What's the goal? What's the vision?
Well, the big long-term, super high long-term vision is to win an Oscar and to go down as one of the best of my generation, and to showcase that, I suppose, South Asians, Indians, Indian people, South Asian people, we can compete with the best of the best. That we don't have to use our culture and our upbringing as the only source of content creation and the only source of storytelling.
Yeah.
I think that is a bolder place for us to go, I would say, in my personal opinion, because because now the playing field, now you have to compete with like Leo, and you have to compete with Christian Bale, and you have to compete with Joaquin Phoenix or Kate Winslet or Meryl Streep. But that is a very dangerous place, in a good way, I think, to go. And I think that's where, I think if us as artists if we want the representation that we want, and we want the respect that we want, again, it goes back to financial literacy. To me, it's all ownership.
Yeah.
I think, I don't want to comment on how other people play the game, but I think if you are pointing the finger at Hollywood and asking them for representation, I think you're always going to be left disappointed, and you are never going to get representation. But if you, again, become an owner, and you can do what, let's say, The Rock, or what Kevin Hart is doing, or Tom Cruise, or like Brad Pitt or Clooney, or even like Jennifer Aniston, they are now slowly becoming owners. They are putting their team together to create the content that they want to see, that they for some reason or another expected Hollywood to give them, or thought would be given to them, but it's just not happening. Listen, the institutions that run the world cannot move as quickly as the world around them moves.
Yeah.
So Hollywood is a giant machine that is not as nimble as an individual. An individual is always going to be more nimble than the community itself, because when you have a community or an institution, it's politics. Not that we should get rid of all institutions, because also all institutions provide the infrastructure so that me and you have the individual freedom to express our ideas.
Yeah.
I think Einstein said it. Innovation doesn't come from community. Innovation comes from the individual. So his theory of relativity, his E equals MC squared, the laws of the universe, it didn't come from the scientific community.
Yeah.
It comes from Einstein. Now, the scientific community is important because it should provide an atmosphere in which Einstein can do his work and experiment and do that. Also, unfortunately, though, they were also anti-Semitic. And so they weren't very keen on his ideas. Also, his ideas were so revolutionary and overthrowing Newtonian physics to a large degree. So when you're that dangerous, you're going to scare the institutions that are in power. But if you're consistent and you play the long-term game and you're patient, your truth is going to win out, because it's the way the world is going to move eventually. You're just ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So eventually, so now it's like, well, the theory of relativity is obviously absolute truth of the universe. Obviously, space-time is what is the fabric of the universe, and the bending of space-time is gravity, and there's no such thing, there's nothing that moves faster than the speed of light, and speed of light is an absolute phenomenon of the universe. Those are non-negotiable now. But if you rewind to 1906 to 1920, it's very negotiable.
Yeah.
So to me, it's about, if you're willing to, and you have to have the skills too. I mean, Einstein had the skills, but if you have the skills and you have the patience and you have the guts to go after it and take ownership of it, then eventually all this stuff that you wanted the institutions to do, you will just do yourself.
Yep.
And that is how you will influence the entire world. But that, again, requires a tremendous amount of dedication and discipline and sacrifice, which goes back to principles you learn in financial literacy, ownership, and like it to me, it's all one thing.
That you can see how it ties into be one thing.
Yep.
Especially when you explain it in that way. So
Yep.
on that point, exactly, like when you feel lost, which I'm sure you do, there are times where you feel like lost, confused about what to do next, or you're stuck in your own mind about like what to create next. What's your process? How do you get yourself out of that funk and into the mode of still creating something? Like, where does that discipline actually translate into? What happens?
Yeah, discipline it's something that I grew up with because of the household. Discipline is the word of the household that I grew up in, and so it wasn't a foreign concept to me. And the idea of just doing your job, even again, if you don't feel like it, you just do it. Even if you don't feel like working out, you do it. Even if you don't feel like going to the class, you do it, because it's what you're supposed to do, and you always feel better after it. But I guess when I'm in a creative funk, I kind of rely on the discipline. And I also understand that I don't actually know what's going to work in terms of the content that I create. I don't know what's gonna, like, I've had many times where I've made videos that it feels as if I'm maybe phoning it in, or just like, I don't know, this is stupid. But then I immediately just release it, put it out. And then sometimes those videos end up being the videos that work of all the content in that day. And it's weird. And I'm constantly reminded that I don't know what's going to work, but that's why I have to keep creating. And yes, it does get tiring. But then there are things or conversations you have with people, or maybe you take a walk. I think taking walks are very useful for me. I think exercising is very useful for me. Also having some kind of life experience or being around people, because now there's a source of content and a source of experiences that other people go through that I can tailor back to my content, which could be interesting. And then there's also consuming content and seeing what other people are creating and taking inspiration from that. But yeah, I mean, it's really, you do anything that you have a crazy idea about in order to keep the juices flowing and keep you going. Yeah. It's not always fun. It's not. Creating content isn't always fun. Working out, having ambitions is not always fun. But what is worse is looking back and quitting and feeling like, you know what? If I just didn't quit for the last 3 months, what could I have been 3 months down, if I actually committed to the thing for 3 months, even though I didn't want to?
Yeah.
So sometimes that regret, you remind yourself of the potential regret you can feel. So it's all just making it up as we go, in a way, just trying to figure it out. Like today I am tired to make content. Tomorrow I will be tired to make, like I have to make content after this. And I'm not looking forward to it, but I will do it.
Yep.
And I have to work out, and then I have to make more content for YouTube, and then that'll be fun. But it's just about doing it repeatedly.
Yeah. And man, making it up is everything in life is made up.
Yeah.
Everything. So if that's true, then you must also be able to make up your own way. So like doing things like removing yourself from the situation, taking a walk, having a life experience, finding inspiration from somewhere else when you're feeling stuck because you feel like it's not coming from within you, is probably one of the most effective ways to get that process flowing again.
Yeah. Also, having conversations like this helps me too. So that's why I like doing podcast interviews also, because especially when it comes to like financial literacy, because it can be very, it's longer form for me to explain the thought process behind what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And then how it connects back to my acting. It's hard to do it in 59-second clips, but this kind of stuff is also very invigorating for me. So thank you.
No, thank you, man. Like I'm getting a ton of value from you, like in what you're explaining. And I hope that everyone listening is gaining the same level of value in whatever way they needed to hear it as well. Because I think it's just an important conversation to have, especially now when, I mean, here in the UK, we've just been told that we're in basically another lockdown. Like, and now there's no real idea of when that's going to be lifted. And they're talking like how things might be better in the spring. So so that kind
of like deja vu, isn't it?
Yeah. So now you're stuck for another 3 months potentially. Like, what are you going to do in the next 3 months? And for everyone listening, that's the question I'd ask you. Like, if you've got 3 months of time, when else has there been a period of life where you've been gifted time?
You're forced. Yeah, you're forced.
Yeah.
No choice now.
Exactly. Choice is taken away.
Yeah.
So now what can you do? And I think that's why these conversations are so important, because this could be the source of inspiration that someone else was looking for. They could be a funk on their life path, and listening to this is the reason that they are now going to have inspiration to do something.
Yeah. So as creators, it's important for us to create. As listeners, it's important to listen. Everybody's got to do their job.
Yeah.
If everybody does their job, then we can all keep going.
100%.
You know what I mean? It's like a very, it's a very Hindu Vedanta kind of philosophy. You have a job. You're given a job on it, like dharma. They talk about dharma in Hindu philosophy, which is everybody has a duty. You know, I mean,
everyone has a purpose.
Yeah, everybody has a purpose. Whatever your purpose is, do it. If it means cleaning the floors, clean the floors. If it means, changing tires, change the tires. But change the tires. Really change the tires. Really clean the floor. And then you create good energy that way. But I think, I think we have to, again, you have to put yourself in the driver's seat of your life. Whatever you need to say to yourself, you need to watch motivational videos every day. You need to journal. Whatever you need to do so that you can have the right conversation between your ears going on.
Definitely. Awesome, man. Okay, last 2 questions, slightly lighter note. So, favorite book of all time and favorite movie of all time, and why? Like, what did it teach you specifically?
Yeah, book, I would say Extreme Ownership is probably my favorite book. That book, that's a great book. I would also maybe the biography of Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson is also very good.
Okay, cool.
I think it's just called Steve Jobs, actually. Walter Isaacson does a lot of great biographies. So his whole series on he has one on Steve Jobs. He has one on Da Vinci.
Okay.
Einstein, he's got one. He's got really great biography. I think that biography is one of the best books I've ever read, actually, because you see as close as you can get to the mind of and the innovative spirit of Steve Jobs. And he was willing to kill his own darlings before the market did, because he understood how the market was going to shift and how people were going to shift, because he paid attention.
Yeah.
And he didn't care. He respected money because it gave him leverage, but he didn't chase the money because it didn't matter to him. It was the innovation, it was the product, it was the process. So that was a really interesting insight. And then favorite movie, I've always loved this movie, American Psycho. Didn't
Okay.
really, yeah, with Christian Bale.
Yep.
I don't know what it taught me, but it did. I guess it's a whenever I watch movies, I realize that these are all potential things that I could do, even if, again, the market doesn't say I can do it. But I know that the market is going to shift, and I know I can help make it shift. So stuff like the movies like that really get me going. Even like anytime movies like The Big Short or like Vice or like Moneyball, anytime you have like intellectual stuff in storytelling that's educational and also emotionally gripping,
Yeah.
it's a very, even the Steve Jobs movie actually is really amazing, by written by Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
That is a great movie.
Yeah, love that movie.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. And then final question for you would be, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice.
Yeah.
I already think I know the answer to this question, but if you could give him one
Get
piece of
financially
advice.
literate.
Yeah, get financially
I
what
would
would
say
it be?
I would say take social media more seriously. Respect it and get on it.
Interesting. Respect it the same way you give
Yeah.
money respect, and that will.
Yeah, yeah, your life will look different quicker in a positive way if you got serious about social media. That's what I would tell myself.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
All right, absolutely love it. Thank you so much, guys, for you all listening. Rahul can be found on Instagram and TikTok under The Real Rahul Rai. Or if you're like, as you've been hearing about financial literacy and getting on that, if that's what you're interested in, he's on TikTok under The Layman Investor. Is that the same on, do you have an Instagram for that as well? Or is it just?
I have an Instagram. It's the same handle.
Yeah, so The Layman Investor. I will write that down in the
Awesome.
video caption and everything as well. So definitely give him a follow if you're not already doing it, so you can be entertained and learn at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, dude, I had a great time.
Thank you so much.